startling speaker, as you know. Unfortunately, our president is not available today. He's got a 40th wedding anniversary, so he's had to go and do surprises for his wife. But we look forward to what you're going to say. What do you think of lecture review?
It's about how to go from compensation that we talked about before to the flow that we talked about before too.
Yes. So this is a sort of a summing up of the two.
It's a further exploration into the intangible.
That's wonderful.
So I'm also a bit in the intangible myself.
Well, that's wonderful. So we'll get out of the intangible.
Okay. Okay, the idea was, first good morning. Before we talked about different things, I'm going to recap a bit, but we often talked about the flow, and that flow is a bit intangible. And one person was very frustrated about this is my sister. She lives in Portugal. I sent her the videos, and she says, you talk about these things, and then somebody asks you about the flow, where is it, and you say, I don't know. Are you messing me around or what? Because she wants to box it, and there are things we can't box, that's what we understand. So, as we went along, remember, I'm maybe going to recap a bit. Looking at the last talk, I had to encode the video, and I did that only yesterday. I realized I always go, it's a bit like this and like that, or like that and like that. So you realize it's always a question of an equilibrium and in between things. Now, we live in two extremes, and we miss the in between. And that's likely where that flow is. But you can't grasp it, because the moment you try to grasp it, you go to one of the extremes. And that's the ambiguity. This is something you live, and the moment you become aware of it, you lose it. So it's living in the experience. Okay? And that's why I said it's a bit intangible, and it's not that easy to talk about. We talked before in one of the talks about, I'm going to try to recap, so that you have a bit of a positioning, especially for those maybe who never were in one of my talks. We talked about compensation in one of the talks. And what we said, the concept was, we have a certain equilibrium, and we have to maintain it. If we want something, I can want something and push myself, but one of the examples was, let's say I want to fetch something in a swimming pool. I can't stretch far enough. I can hold the hand of somebody who will compensate my wants by resisting in a way. So I can reach, but I can't live like that. But often, we live like that. We use the energy of other people to stay where we shouldn't be. And that creates dynamics in family, in society, in companies. In fact, we live in a compensated world. And what we realize is that on the one side there is wanting, generally somebody wants something and somebody resists. And it's okay within a certain range because it's normal that we compensate. Then we start stressing, it becomes a bit more hectic, and then we collapse. Because you come to a stage where the analogy is the model of stress in a way. We're okay, we stress too much, and then we get depressed, we collapse, we can't compensate anymore. And then we move into another layer. The example was somebody becomes diabetic, and they fell into that layer, you might say. And then they say, okay, I have a label, I am a diabetic, I adjust my life, and I now compensate from that state. Doesn't have to be. One would have to explore what has moved us to that layer, and maybe we're able to move back to another layer. But that's not really the issue. Diabetic is not the issue. The issue is how we flow. Okay. You see dynamics. Let's say, and I'm going to show it like this. This is wanting, this is resisting, this is being in between. I have an idea of going for a walk this weekend. Quite happy about it, neutral. I express that idea to my son, who starts to perform because he doesn't want to go for a walk. So he's now acting and he's resisting. I can say, okay, see you later. I'm staying there, I'm not compensating. Have your life, I have mine. Or I can try to convince him to join in. Now I'm going to start wanting to, he's resisting, I'm going to start to want to go for a walk. We're going to have a bit of a clash, and we might make a deal. Okay, you come with me to the walk, because now you want something. I'll rent you a video, and we enter in a loop. But we now go for the walk, but it's a deal. But there's energy flowing here. So we're spending energy to maintain that deal. If we're lucky, it goes from there to there and then goes back there. But sometimes we've seen before dynamics go that all the streams go to the one side. So we get pulled into compensation loops. And it's not that easy to stay in the middle. The flow is in the middle, where there are two opposites that can't meet. Somehow, when you're in the flow, it doesn't matter. You can live with the opposites. It's a reality that these opposites are not affecting you. So it's a certain space, it represents a certain boundary where suddenly we're not affected by these extremes. Okay? That is what we talked about compensation at the time. And that's where the idea, flow is there. We then got some CDs from Wayne Dyer talking about the Tao, and he exactly, it was amusing because it was really the same time, he then says in the Tao they also see the flow is between these opposites. So there was kind of a similarity of conclusion there. Okay, but that's not really enough now. We also talked about the fact that we are a human being, and that human being is connected to the universal intelligence and to the earth, and there were two energies coming together, like we do in meditation, meeting in the middle, creating a center of a person, and that now flows the person on a vertical way. The way I was sketching it was going fast here. Let's see where it takes us there. Okay, so there was the universal energy, there was the earth's energy, and here was life. Now, that would be a flow that represents a person. For me to be alive, the energy, the life force must flow, and somehow, ideally, they should overlap here, and ideally I should live there too, to be in a position of equilibrium. But as we are living daily, we meet all kinds of things. And now we get triggered. That system is like a magnetic field, and it can move. It can be affected by what's outside. Not because what's outside is good or bad, but because we don't know what to do with it. So it's not a reflection of bad outside, is, shish, I don't know what to do with what's going on here. But we tend to shoot the messenger. So this was showing that we have a soul that is kind of a folder that collects information. So we all live now. Let's imagine we die. Things go back in that folder. So when somebody else comes back, they can bring files from that folder into action again, because everything we start has got to finish. If we depart from, if you create something, it's got to land. If I take off a plane, I can fly, but I have to land. If I start a relationship, it has to evolve, but it has to be in a state of harmony. It can carry on, but there must be a state of harmony, of completion. So for things, they need to be aligned to a certain equilibrium. Need to recollect myself a bit. So now, when that energy flows here, above is what I now call the universal intelligence, which is in a way, the word I use is chaos, because it's only ideas, it's only an intelligence, there's no matter. If you go down, you go to the physical, you've got behind us there is our view of the world, there's society and all its memories and views of the world as well, and underneath there's a, you could call structure, but it's like total structure is total annihilation. Because if I have too much structure, I lose space. If you take away the content of idea, of expression, of structure, there's nothing left. So that's hell in a way, because, and the way we describe hell in our culture is you are in physical space, you burn, there's no more structure, there's only annihilation. And that is the opposite here, which is heaven, where there's nothing tangible and everything is in harmony, supposedly. Now we have to float between chaos and structure to be alive. And that's another thing that we're confronted with all the time. As we evolve, we meet situations. So in the example, for example, of the hike and the sun, my wanting to go for a hike coming from here put him maybe in a position of structure. How does he respond? He has to balance the act. He creates chaos. Not wanting to go, all kind of things, maintains his equilibrium. If the system is strong enough on the other side, it's not going to join in, or it might compensate little and not be that disturbed. But if the other system can't cope, now we have a dynamic again. So we end up always in these compensations of all kinds. And that makes life difficult. Take Greenpeace. They object to society and the structure of society. I guess for them it's too much structure. They object and they create a bit of chaos by going on a bridge, blocking a road, making a mess to create attention. They balance their act. The system doesn't get really disturbed. Society doesn't get too disturbed by Greenpeace. They're making a point, but doesn't affect the equilibrium. It's not strong enough. And these dynamics are constantly in line. So with that, what I started to do is to work a bit with structure chaos. So if I see somebody, I try to ask, must I go somewhere? And what's interesting is because everything compensates, it's difficult to know where it starts. So I would say we experience something and we respond. And now it becomes difficult to go further, but one can start to say, can I take examples? Can you talk to me about money?
Money?
Yeah.
In what way?
You often talk about money and wondering what to do about it, with the situation of the day and that type of thing.
Well, money is a very elusive thing, isn't it? And it changes all the time. It's something that one has to control, otherwise you lose it. You've got to be good with it, and you've got to respect it. If you don't respect it, it will disappear. You've got to be careful with it, and yet you've got to have it, because if you don't, you lose your dignity.
Okay.
In the material state, of course, I'm talking about.
Okay, so let's say I would take, I'm not trying to go, I'm just trying to see where things are.
Yes.
On that line, what you're experiencing is a bit of the chaos, if you want. So you would try to bring structure.
Yes, you try and bring structure.
But somehow you don't know how to, so you stay there.
Well, you do bring structure to it. You're careful with it. You see, it doesn't go in the stock market.
Yes.
You know, you kind of bring your portfolio into various things, being property, money, and various things, and you do structure it. You have to structure it. The moment you don't structure it, you have problems.
Okay.
So it's a balancing act. It's always a balancing act.
So it's about these things, eh? Now, what happens in compensation, I'm coming now, sometimes, ideally, if we experience too much of that, we are able to reach that way, within ourselves or by triggering others. But sometimes what happens is we try to compensate with more of the same. So if I'm in too much structure, I try to put more structure because my structure doesn't work. Or if I'm in too much uncertainty, I put more uncertainty. And that creates an unstable system then it starts to slide. Okay, I was just trying to get a feel.
I didn't give you a very good one.
No, you did, but I didn't want to dive too far.
Yes.
What I was trying to show is, in fact, you expressed it's uncertain. That's the way I would get it. It's uncertain. One needs structure, but because one doesn't know how, we just do everything we can, hoping that it will do the trick. That was what I understood from it. But it keeps you here. And one could explore what is happening there and try to rebalance that. Because everything we experience is in a way a certain message. Whatever I experience now and I can deal with is part of my makeup. And my makeup is what I am universally, plus my past. And my past is in this life, and my past is far more than this life. So in a way, to be able to move into the now and what we would call that flow, I would have to resolve enough of the past to be able to be now and flow. And I don't think we can, or maybe I think we can, but I don't know if we dare, flow all the time. We flow at times and then we lose the flow. You have people in sport, for example, they flow, but maybe in their life they don't. In the 60s, there was a motorbike champion, Agostini, I don't know if you know his name. And once I went to a motor race where he was, and they started the race, and then you have the first lap, and people were wondering, what is it? Because it was a circuit up and down. And suddenly you hear a motorbike and they try to see, is it a 2-stroke, a 4-stroke, and then comes, no disturbance, calm. And then behind it was like, in all directions. That guy he caused the whole thing, not a movement, nothing, it was neat in the system. The others were going like this in a way, they were constantly compensating with their emotions, fighting with the others. They were in a compensated reality, but there was a very different feel of that you really felt the difference. And without fail, for his career, never had an accident that I know about, nearly always won everything. I don't know how it was in his life, but in that line, he flew easy. So there's now, when we move in the middle, suddenly things stop. What is around doesn't matter anymore so much, because we go somewhere with an idea in mind, and we simply see the flow of that idea, and that idea is the only thing we see. When we're off, we see all the dangers. We worry about falling, we worry about the traffic, we worry about that. Otherwise, we don't even see it somehow. And there's that magical space in between everything. And as I said, the moment you try to go too far in it, you lose it. But we all have these times where things happen. And when we go in that flow, there's a synchronicity starts to work well. Because we meet the right things. We see what we meet. Where normally we don't see what we meet. We bash everything. So it loses, the experience is different. And it puts us back into attitude. We talked about that before as well, a lot. There was one where we discussed, in fact, the flow is like our universal identity. So if I can release the rest, I can express my universal identity. And there were prerequisites to that. And the one was to surrender, to realize I'm part of a universal intelligence and system. I'm like a star in the sky. I'm here. I'm part of that. That was leading to respecting. I have to respect me. I have to respect others, because if we're all part of that system, we respect each other, it's precious. And once we were precious and the universal creation was precious, we couldn't control, because control was a lack of respect. Imposing my way on something was not respecting the system. So it was about letting go. And when we were able to go to that stage, it was, okay, now what can I do? I'm part of a big system that I let express through me. I'm respecting things, which means I don't push anything behind the boundary. I let go. What can I do? And the conclusion was, trust the flow. And that for us is difficult because we live in a compensated world. Our society or economies are compensated systems. And that compensation pulls us in. They need us in there because it's living like that. It's to go in between. And then, like chaos and structure are incompatible, suddenly we float in between the incompatible. We can live in the middle of all of that. But it's an attitude, and it's also about you see now the difficulty of this because we move into the difficult thing to talk about. When things happen, it's either to let them pass, like Rob was saying before, I don't know what things are for, so I might as well let it go. I heard myself in the last talk say to somebody, if you say so. People come with theories like me now, and you don't agree. You say, well, if you say so, that must be your reality. It doesn't mean it's mine. I'm coming. So it's a bit tricky, but that is somehow to trust something that is us versus art. And then life changes because when you're in that flow, you see some movies sometimes, it becomes very intense. And it's in fact a hell of intense. There are emotions, there are things that are true. You are confronted to things that are big in a way, without knowing why. Because they're not stressful, but they are alive. The other things are stressful because you fight, but you fight simply to compensate something. It's not the same vibe. Martin, I'm there now.
No, I just wanted to find out whether you knew anything about, among enlightened people around the world, there's a new trend emerging called the Venus Project.
And what is that?
And it's something to do with, that is enough for everyone on this planet. It's the banks and the monetary system that's controlling people and causing all this mayhem on the world.
But I'd hate to see people controlling the monetary system. You'd have more mayhem then. Put it the other way
Well, I
around.
don't know anything about the Venus Project, but apparently that's a new trend that's going to take over the world.
You know me, I don't know these things then. I don't read, I don't listen to the news, so I don't know. But what these things do, they go on that type of continuum. You now think about that shift, they're going to control me. It moves that way. And it doesn't seem to have much of an impact on you, you're interested. But it's all these things we can buy into. The media, they try to create that.
Yes.
There's an accident on the road, the city was blocked. Okay, that I heard, my wife was stuck in it on Friday. And it shakes a lot of people. We respond immediately, we start to compensate. It triggers fears maybe, it upsets us.
It goes for the emotional body, yeah.
It goes for everything, yeah.
Yeah, they specifically designed it for that. And make it into a huge thing, when it isn't. Well, it sells the newspapers, isn't it?
I think it's moving things in there, somehow in that case, and then people, I don't exactly know, but there's dynamics there, always.
Go back to diagram 1. You had V with a circle in the middle. I can see it in the background there still. Let's take your example. You said you want to go for a walk. Okay. That is your intention. To conclude the intention, you go for a walk. Okay. Everything's balanced. You're in the flow. You're in the moment. Everything. Something comes along and drags you one way. You get drawn the other way. So you have to apply energy to kind of move back into the room to go the other way. Now, if we just remember to do what we whatever your role is, just do it. You would always stand and you then mention the bike rider. Let's take a really good rugby player, a really good soccer player. They will fall into the same class.
Yes.
They're actually operating out of time. They're actually operating on a different time constant when they're doing their thing. Because they're in that flow. And it's almost as if you get to an intuitive place, that you're not operating on thinking any longer. Thinking is very slow. You're working at intuition. So if we were just to keep to intuition, not to think. Now, Franz Comhout, I listened to on Friday evening for a while, and he came up with a very, very lovely one. He said, what we know, we cannot think. What we think, we cannot know. And you do the distinction of head and heart.
Yes. And that is why it is difficult to talk about, because it goes to how do you share something that you experience or you would like to share about what you experience, but talking about when you can't really talk about it. That's what you're trying to say.
And that's why I set myself up with these topics. Like last time with the beliefs, or now this one, that was when Jo calls me off and tell her, oh, I'm busy with this, okay. And of course it sets me up because for the next 3 weeks I have to wrap it up. You can't too much talk about it. But what I was thinking, you can try to know, intellectually you can understand something, and then it helps you to move sometimes to the edge of letting go, because it preps us to go to the place where we can go for the slide in a way. And to start to be aware that, let's say I go on my walk now, and I meet somebody on the walk and I wanted to be on my own to think about all these things for my talk of tomorrow. Now I meet that person, and Bush is walking, and we talk about things, but I want to talk about my talk. Or at least, so do I think. Because maybe talking for the day with that other person will give me all the ingredients I need for my talk. So I need to be able to relax now and say, okay, either I don't know what this is for, or I can't handle it, what's going on in me. Don't shoot the messenger. And now my attitude can convert my lack of boundary, maybe, if I can have the awareness when I'm solicited to convert that experience and maybe resolve something and get the insight that was coming to me that I was rejecting because I made my mind as to how it should happen. And you use the bike now. What I was thinking is, how do you teach somebody to ride a bicycle? Nearly everybody can ride a bicycle. Can you explain to somebody how to ride it? But it's a feeling, eh? That's what you're talking about. And invariably when you teach a child to ride, you tell them, you hold them and they ride, and you tell them, that's it, I'm not holding you, you're doing it. They fall. Because somehow they don't believe they can. Yes, they now think. And thinking is not doing it. And after a while they say, well, I could do it, I can do it, I'm in that flow. And it's very different when it rides and when it is stopped. It's like a car without engine, it loses its purpose. Eh? It's not the same experience anymore.
The same thing with swimming, eh?
Yes, you believe you can handle it. Yeah. So what I did yesterday was what confused me now, because I realized there's the horizontal, there are two flows in a way. There's a life force flow that is a vertical flow, and I call the primary flow. We discussed last time, it's like a funnel, like a black hole type of matter concentration that goes from the spiritual to our soul to the physical, and then the energy goes and recycles. But it also goes down to life on display, from my body type of experience, conditions my view of the world, makes me interact with the social world underneath, and that creates a secondary loop that is fed by the top one. If I lose myself in this world, I deplete that flow because the energy gets consumed underneath and doesn't flow on top. When I lose what feeds me, which is my life force, the chaos structure flow, I can't function anymore either. Now I must feed on the sides. So there's that equilibrium between the primary flow and the secondary flow that must take place. So yesterday I somehow saw it like that I would have a square with the vertical flow and the horizontal. That is the chaos, this is the structure, this is the wanting, and this is the resisting. And the flow is here, and you might say, when you end up here, that is when the thing goes bang on the other side, because it became unstable. But I haven't played too much with it yet. But it shows that now, if I take, you were talking money now, and I said you were going here, you were oscillating on this line. You were saying, there are things, you were feeling chaos and you were resisting. There was a resistance. And so there was a kind of trying to find an answer between the resistance and the wanting by being there. So what it shows now, it's a bit like a physics diagram maybe, but there are equilibrium points everywhere. It only helps me in my way of working, because what I would do then, I would start to access what's happening. And we see in families, for example, I worked with a family recently, the couple is in difficulty, the daughter is hyperactive. And what you find is that the mother-in-law is not too comfortable with the situation of the family, and somehow the family network of the child has moved the child out of the picture. So the child is not exposed to what that family network considers incorrect. A family network is like a person, it's the line of our generation, with a value system, with desires, with things to comply to. And it speaks through us. We're all part of a family network, we're all part of a society. And that child was of course not comfortable with the parents, and the parents were destabilized as well. So we worked with that dynamic. The child came back in my concept in the family flow, and now the child is calm. And the mother says, I don't recognize my child. I miss my child. Because there was a dynamic of compensation as well. Haven't worked with the mother, only worked with the mother-in-law. And that's as conditioned now a new dynamic. But somehow, in my books, they are more here, but confused. Because they were used to the other dynamic, and now it doesn't have a purpose anymore. In flow, but confused. The danger is, what do we recreate from there? Because we might try to recreate what we had before. And then we might go out and trigger other things. That's the flow of the work after that. Yes?
Isn't that kind of what habits are so, it's like, and why you keep repeating patterns in
Yes.
your life?
Yes.
You're kind of used to that energy dynamic and you keep seeking it.
So now you're not,
comfortable for you.
it's comfortable, so you keep doing that. So now you're not finding it in your family situation, so you're going to find something at work to recreate a pattern.
So it's a whole personal responsibility thing as well.
Mm.
It's like you are creating the world. It's not
Yes.
like you go into victim mode, it's happening to you, but actually you are creating those dynamics.
You create it yourself. Now, I haven't worked. The difficulty now, if you talk of the work, would be for the person now who's got that difficulty to deal with it. And either to find help to deal with it, and you can't predict how it's going to happen. And whenever we try to assist, we cannot be attached to the outcome, because then we would put our own will on other people, which we can't do either, because we would interfere. So we can only assist. You're welcome to raise things to try to make it work behind. Yes?
Can you maybe give us examples of what would happen if a person is in one of the different quadrants, the one that you drew on the board? So if they're tilted to the SW side, what would they experience? What would happen if they're tilted to the SR side?
I can't really do that. You see, the difficulty, I need to work, if somebody has an issue, a difficulty of some kind, or a situation, then we can try. Because what I realize is you can typify things, but in the type of way I tackle things, I can't really do that, because then I lopside it, because I will enter just a preconceived idea. So for me, if I want to talk, I nearly have to stop, because I've shared what I can. If we want to try to say, okay, let's see how it would work, we can try that. It would be for somebody who's got to take something simple, maybe, something we can try to see where things are, and maybe how that would move. I don't know if somebody wants to play. Any taker? This is an auction.
Like having difficulty sleeping, would that be something?
Sorry?
Having difficulty sleeping, would that be an issue?
That could be something like that. That could be. Is that what you would like to? Is that what you're experiencing?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm checking, because now I'm going intuitive in a way. I'm asking, can I go there? Do I need more information? No. So I would try on the concept now. I would try to see what are you busy experiencing on that continuum in the sleep or not sleeping, and it would go here. So you might be experiencing. It doesn't go that far. It goes here, and on this continuum, it would go here. So you'd be busy resisting something. Okay? And you're just stuck there. So you're not compensating it. That's maybe why you then stay there. In order to deal with that, you want to go there.
Yes.
Okay? Just checking. I would have to say, okay, where do we have to go now to assist you with that? In the way we were before, there could be topics like a relationship, a situation, etc. No. But I would have to go to the energy from here down is your space, and it's your physical space. And somehow your physical space disappears. So in your being model, you are moving out of yourself maybe, but you're not secure.
Yes.
Okay, there's something rattling. So from there, what would I have to do to assist you to the balance from that point? So I would have to go, is there interference? Yes. There's interferences can be that you lose energy, something comes through. In this case, it's something going through. It's another energy going through. Okay? It's an energy of another person. It's a male person, and it's his space, but his space is feeling abused. So there's emotions, physical, etheric, emotional, mental, spiritual. There are emotions, maybe of anger, and you don't know what to do with it. So it's about disconnecting from that. You connect too much to something and you blow in your circuits. In what I would get. Okay. Don't know if it makes sense to you or not. Okay. So now I would let energy flow to assist you to move in that flow to allow things to happen.
Yes.
Okay? All I do in a way is I try to hold the energy of what I am, if I can say it like this. I'm not 100% sure. Dirk was asking me last week, what is it you do? And I said, look, I'd rather not try to understand it because I'm going to kill it. I'd rather learn to work with it. I'd rather learn to work with it and to work better with it than try to dismantle it.
Just know it.
Eh?
Just know it.
Yes, just know it. Exactly. Which is something I said last week to somebody. The person asked me, how do you see this? I say, I don't see, I know. And that surprised me because I know. So it's, don't touch things at work. Once, I'll come back to you now. We were riding motorbikes, scooters, and a friend and I were trying to go over the ground, and there were big tree roots, and he was going up, and I was trying I was stuck all the time in the same place, and I said to him, "How do you do it?" I thought, I'm going to try to tell you. 5 minutes later, he couldn't do it anymore. And he couldn't recover it for a day. Later he tried again. That's it, killed. So when something works, leave it alone. There are lots of jokes about that. When something works, don't touch.
Isn't that also the battle between often people who work from a very realistic, that whole thing of spiritualism versus science?
Yes.
Because you can't explain spirituality from a scientific point of view.
You limit it because they go too much in structure. They can't open to that.
So that's also where that dynamic almost comes in.
It blocks the flow.
Well, of course, Eric, there the fault lies in the paradigm.
Yes.
Because we haven't managed to really get ourselves out of the physical world yet.
Exactly.
Scientists believe things must be explained physically.
Mm.
The minute you start thinking in the quantum way, that goes blowing right out the nearest quantum window.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to say, let's look and not have, like that's why I can't quantify what would a person do there and there, because it will depend. Okay? Okay, now we've done that little step, and we still have to go there, but now you're busy compensating. So now, that's whatever we've done here is reinstalled your ability to compensate. Now you are compensating, you're still there in your experiencing, but you're busy compensating here. Don't need to bring the other person. Now we go to your compensation response, if you want, which is expressing in the physical, and it can't. So it's trying to express, but it can't. It doesn't know how to express what it's experiencing there, towards what it's experiencing. So we go to your throat in the physical side of it, so expressing physically, if you want, to no interference. I have to look at what is around you. Is it people? Yes. Energy, emotions. Again, to disconnect from the emotion of the other person. It's jamming your throat. So you now get stuck to express, not especially vis-a-vis that person, but in general you get lost, trapped in a way. Now I'm checking, is that done? Yes, that's it. But there's more. Now you're not there anymore. That disappeared, and that disappeared. Now we then entering. You see now, what happened there was on top of something else. So now we go to something else. You stop me if you don't want to go there, like I said. Now it's a relationship. Now it's a relationship, and it often goes. It goes in your life. Parents are very important, and it would be a relationship between you and your mother. The two that are here, I could say. You're right there. Okay. This is not on the compensation. Maybe it is, we're going to see. For you, it's about your space that you hold. And for your mother, it seems that your spaces are a bit into one another. Often with mothers, you have that, because mothers carry us in their space, and we move. But now you rely on the space of your mother somehow. Okay? So it's to go to your space overall, and it's to now move into your own, so that you can start to find your own foot more. It's a process, eh? Okay? Make sense?
Yes.
Now you're here. Okay, be careful when we say that. It's never absolute. You're here for what we talked about. Okay? I'm checking, are we stable? Yes. but we don't have enough ingredient. Now, the one thing is stability. The other one is, have you got enough ingredient now to restructure behind this? Because the idea is to assist you to restructure and to give you to a platform where you can start to make choices that are yours. I can't go to your choices. I can assist your energies to balance so you start to make steps. Okay? Now we're back to this, but it's another topic. It's relationship with the person we talked before. It's your expression versus a space overall. And somehow you don't know how to express. So you are on the side and you don't have access, it seems. Puts you here as an experience and you're also stuck in it. It's your throat overall. We don't have to go there all the time. I'll just go now because that's what we talked about. Okay? You're okay to go? Yeah, we can stop. You're comfortable. Yeah, I don't want to push you behind where you want to go. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So we go to your space now. That somehow you don't have there. Not that it's taken. You simply don't know how to move in. Okay? So we go to your space, physical, no interference. It's to trust more life for the presence of the other person and what it seems to be he's expressing emotionally. It seems to be frustration. You don't know what to do. It's not yours, but maybe you're trying to take something that's not yours. Still here. Now, in terms of, that's your experience, in terms of responding, you're starting to compensate in a way. And you're busy compensating here, which from here to there is a response. Now it's your third eye, which is your third eye chakra, all aspects, towards the relationship of your two beings, for you, your throat, and his space. That's that aspect. You expressing versus that space. It's like you can't express, the space there's there. You can't access. Yes, speaking or expressing you can't. It's like me trying to push a truck.
Yes.
I can't. So from there now, it's to close what I call a gateway, which is an opening, a portal if you want, towards the structure that brings. Because that truck you can't move is like an infinite structure. It takes you to nothing. If you connect too much to that, you disappear, and that's what you're doing in a way. It doesn't mean the person is good bad. It's simply that you don't know how to respond.
Yes.
That's the ambiguity. It confused me a lot when I started to go out, because it seems we're pointing fingers. It's more saying, okay, there's a message coming from there, and it shows you can't handle this. But it's not at all a judgment on the other person. It's simply you trying to recalibrate how you can balance your
You
attitude.
looking at them so that you can get that message really.
And I assist you to maybe read the dynamic.
It wasn't there a reason. So
Sorry?
it wasn't that person, it would be another person.
You would find another situation to bring you that message because that's what you need now. And if you repress this one too much, it's going to seed in many other aspects of your life with different angles until you get it or die. When it will escalate until you get it or don't. That's synchronicity, yeah?
Yes.
So, you see, although we're in a compensation world, synchronicity still works. Simply because we ignore it, being busy with compensation, we block the flow. It's far easier to notice and say, oh, thanks. I don't know what things are for as a type of approach. So now you're busy compensating, but you're compensating too strong, which is that you collapse there. So now you back here. We go back to your space overall, and it's about, now it's to connect more, to reconnect more to your soul, to what you are, to the seed, to what brings you. It's to reconnect more to your identity. You somehow lost yourself in that thing and you forgot about you. Now, that's one thing about the flow, that hopeless thing. You are in the moment, in that experience. It's an inward experience. Compensation is an outward experience. I have to manage the world around me. When we flow, we are in and we live from there. And when we lose ourselves in something, we move outward. We try to balance the act as opposed to reconnect with what we are. And that's why meditation works. That's what Chopra advocates, because he says if you meditate, you reconnect to the intelligence that made you, so you reconnect your circuits, you acknowledge what you are. And that's often, because it puts you in the center, then it flows. That's compensation blocks this. Now you're not compensating, but you're not compensating because now you moved here. So now you are collapsing, okay? You are resisting a structure and you don't know what to do because you try to compensate as opposed to go to the opposite. You put more of it, okay? So it's your space again, physical, towards the other space, and it's like that other space doesn't move. So we go to your physical space that you don't know how to occupy. That's interference. I'm checking my little table. Now it's to reconnect your power. We reconnect to you. Doesn't matter where you are. You now there. In fact, you're free falling. So that's cool. We're moving to another layer. And it's as you go and you fall, it's to reconnect your power, you might say, of expression, of being, to reactivate your circuits. Somehow. And that brings you in. But we're now stable, but we don't have a plateau yet. Okay? I need to go to your third eye, physical, towards maybe the relationship and the space of the relationship. And it's to go to that third eye to know there's something that blocks it. There's something that, it's not a curse. Okay, a block can be, somebody blocks you intentionally, that's a curse. Eh? But an effect of an emotion can block you too. It's a block, but it's not a curse. It's a result of something. So in this case, it's a block coming from that other space. It's somehow, you can't see other thing. It's set. There's no other option. And to go there is to now, it's to open the gateway to what you are. So you somehow push yourself against the wall and you try to push it and you're getting tired. But because you don't see another option than push the wall, there's a doorway. It doesn't mean getting out, it means simply going around it. Okay, now it's stable. Now we have what I would call a plateau. You notice there's a different vibe in the room. It certainly creates some quietness, but it's not there yet. It's there yet for you, it's not there for the room. Okay? So where are we? We're also there now. Not because of you, I guess. Synchronicity brought us to certain space. So we as a group, the room with all of us is here. And it's also third eye, not being able to see behind the world of compensation. I guess if we talk about the flow, it's about seeing behind that dynamic of compensation that we live in. So it's about recollecting our power of being so that we can see.
Yes, something I wanted to ask. Say, when Andrew explained to me about putting your intention being emotionally connected to what you would like. So, in other words, if you're in a space where you're busy feeling depressed, or feeling down, or feeling not coping, or to take that emotion, you recognize it, but you say, but how is it that I would like to feel?
Okay. You want me to re-explain that?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think that.
I will do it just now. I'll do it just now. Okay, now, plateau, the room, not I'm going to come there now. We now here. Now it's our space vis-a-vis the world outside. And that space is not that easy to hold, so we have to compensate to hold it. It's physical space. And it's about the interference of the outside world physical space. It's about holding our space in the space of the world, if you might say. It's to release that other space. Okay, you notice? It's busy landing a bit. I don't know if you... Okay. What Karina was talking about is, that's my sister again, good critic. She says to me, you talk about these things, but we feel powerless because we don't know what to do about it. You show us what you can do, but what can we do? And I'm acknowledging, and I'm saying, okay, what can I do? So I'm trying to say, if we experience something that we don't feel comfortable with, that we don't like, the one thing we can do is to think, what is it I'm experiencing here? What am I feeling? I'm feeling overwhelmed, I have enough of these guys, I feel angry, I feel I have no space, I can never succeed in anything. What would you like to feel in place of that? So you can describe something. I would like to have a job where I earn enough money, whatever. Cool. What would you feel if you had that job? You would realize maybe I feel secure. Typical. We look for peace, security, etc. But we have to find that word ourselves. We have to connect ourselves to what it is that matters to us. And that naturally, because you realize that you would prefer this to that you don't like, creates a step, but more a step towards what really matters. Because in that flow is what is precious to us, what really matters. If I want to go and buy new clothing, or if I want to go and buy a lot of things, it's often simply a compensation. If I want to buy discs for that video of today, it's maybe a different purpose. I buy it for a reason because I want to be able to capture something that I want to share later. And it's very different. So your intention is crucial as to what we do. And by noticing what we don't like, we realize, in fact, hey, I'm attracting something I don't like. You know what? This is not what I was asking for. In fact, this is what I want. I want peace. I want to feel that I have a space here. And okay, if you have a space, what do you feel? Well, I'm more free. I can express myself. I can be me. I can live. That's what you want to connect to, for example. And that overrides, and it's also an acknowledgement of the message. And in getting the message, you then start to build up. I don't know what this is for, but I'm at my own way trying to balance the act and create a new script. And that moves the thing, because you in fact connect to you create the same shape as I do now, and you can meditate on it. And then you open that flow to be in that space of inviting what is precious to you. That's what I was.
Isn't that also why often, because you connect, like say you want a job, you work for yourself because you want freedom, but you might start attracting situations that help you experience the freedom, not necessarily what you originally wanted, but you start more attracting that final feeling experience as opposed to what you really wanted, and that's also constant. Often people say let go or surrender to the process or whatever, but it's actually life is then still bringing you what you actually wanted on a much higher level almost. It's not the lowest stuff, it's not the vehicle of getting there, it's actually what you really were looking for.
That's what you want to experience, because whatever you want is an experience, is leading to an experience. But now you might, let's say,
attached to the vehicle often and not the final thing. Almost.
yeah, often we touch the vehicle and we don't realize what it is we want. Like you might have wanted to work for yourself, thinking that will be free. But sometimes we also wish contradictories. Our wish is not congruent. So you wish freedom, but you also, without knowing, have put things that are not making sense into you. And that creates off balances your thing. And that's why later you say, but I wanted to be free in this job, and now I'm blocked, I don't have time anymore. I feel trapped. What is it I want? I want to be free. And you realize that although you wanted that, your vehicle maybe, your intention for the vehicle was maybe not sufficient, and you recalibrate. So you work with, you will create vehicles because you'll have ideas on the basis of what you put out. You'll have synchronicities that you meet somebody that now says to you, why don't you come and work for me? And you might feel it's a contradiction, but you might do that and suddenly you are relaxed. You've got the space. You've got freedom, although you work for somebody else, which at first was not a possibility. Is that?
No, I understand.
Anything more? Yes, yes, go.
Just when you in your flow, the assumption would be that all your bodies of vehicles are aligned and they all in the same equilibrium. However, when you go into your default setting, as Mike is online, goes busy, how do you get out of that default? How do you, or it could be your emotions, or it could be your, I don't know.
So what you say, you can be like in that flow of being relaxed, etc., and then you go in your default where you feel, that's it, I'm back in it.
Yeah.
Right? It's to, if you can, it's to notice and pause, or keep it for tonight if you're too busy. and then say, okay, what was happening there? What was I experiencing? Don't try to analyze who did what. What was I feeling? What would I like in place? And I think invariably it works. Because you reset your intention all the time. So what you say is, okay, my intention wasn't complete enough. I experienced it, and you realize it will give you new ingredients for your intention. But of course now, is to move in it, and it takes time, because you are in a reality, and you're creating a new one, and it needs the time to establish itself. When we work like we did now, I help you to save time. I facilitate connecting dots, and then you make steps a bit faster, only to where you're ready to go now. Can't go further than that, it would come back anyway. Or as we discussed before, we could deprive people of the experience, and you can't do that, because we have to go through some experience. If I deprive you of an experience, you'll meet it later. So I can't go and interfere. I don't think we can.
In a way, that's, I guess, generally people would like to control their life, and you want to know what's happening next month, next year, or you can't. And I think that's the very difficult thing, that concept of trust. I think trusting in, not in the structure, but in the intelligence of the divine.
Yes. It's to try, in fact, we talked about the primary flow, which is this, and the secondary flow, which is your world here. The way I look at it is, the primary simply creates a mist of energy that represents your secondary flow. So your job, your house, your money, your whatever, it's simply that mist. That is the result of what you are. The moment you try to hold it and control it, you kill it. Because you don't trust that the mist is there. And that is the ambiguity. So the more you can come to trust what you are and to connect to more of a spiritual reality, you then trust the flow, and you don't know what things are for, but there's a purpose. And I'm sure we all have situations in life when we over them, we realize more that there was a purpose. When we're in them, we try to swim and push and it's strenuous, but behind it we realize often, if we can have be open enough to release whatever tension they are, we see the benefit of what we've been cycled by. How our life leads us to what we are now. Like, for me, for example, I'm an engineer by training, and then I did welding. But the welding thing didn't happen, it happened by fluke. I did electromechanics, and I wanted to study electronics. So I went to see the director of the faculty, and I said, can I do electronics? And he said, why don't you do welding? They're just opening a welding thing. I said, cool, I'll do welding. in 5 minutes. And then I did the welding thing, and my internship was in the company doing inspection. And I started testing welds with X-rays and ultrasonics, which is intangible, eh? It's doing invisible things. When I was a student and we visited a lab of people showing that they can find a hole in metal with ultrasound, I thought, what a stupid thing. 2 years later, I do that in my internship. Okay? Then I moved into that, and I was attracted by South Africa, because when I finished my studies, I did a motorbike trip in Africa. I crossed the Sahara on a motorbike. And I was attracted by the space, and somehow South Africa was me. And there was a book in the library, and it was a book with an African tree. I don't know, I was attracted by that. It was the Covenant of Mitchell, story of South Africa. I bought that book, started to think about these things, and then ended up for my work in Belgium, in South Africa for a month, talking to my wife at the time, who said, well, why don't we go there if you like it so much? And we moved to South Africa quickly. And then in South Africa, inspections again, and then ended up at Coburg, managing inspections. That took me more into people, because when you manage services, people go and do their work, it's easy to manage people who have a fixed task. When you have to manage a community, you get all the compensations. And to motivate people is far more difficult. So it took me, now I was managing the programs to measure the intangibles, but now I had the people intangibles, and I started to be more interested in that. And that took me to the next steps. And at the end I had to stop because I wanted to do things like this, but I started to do body alignment, etc. after my work. But there's a continuity, if you look at the story, there is a continuity, because the invisible in the metals, the trying to give a meaningful job to people, the then understanding that there is more than just the science or the engineering things, to now dealing with life. But the past had an intelligence. And then in '98 my wife left. She decided to go back to Europe with her kids, and I started Course in Miracle with Rob. And 6 months later, I recombined with somebody else in another track without trying anything. It's like it was a flow. But at the moment it happened, I didn't think it was that much of a flow. And that is the difficulty, isn't it? Is to accept and go with it, and then to accept to move on, not to stay in your trail. Rob called that Milotins, if I remember. You've got that dust cloud behind the car driving on the dirt road. Don't stay in the dust, move in the now. And that's our challenge, because there's a lot of things in there from other times as well, and we have to convert it. We have to go through them to come more to the now. And it's always a more than a less, because the absolute is an absolute, but more than less, it's easier to manage. So if I'm more in the flow than not, I'm doing good. I don't know. Yes?
What do you think of the books of William II, Knowledge on Feng Shui, where she gives you an idea of what you should be doing instead?
Sharing the exploration as it is now, with the idea of maybe create an insight or a way of thinking and sharing an experience. And it's a journey. But I don't know where she's arrived at, so I can't comment. Huh? No, I haven't read it, so I don't know. I can't calibrate. And maybe it's very difficult to compare things that you have arrived there or there, because I think we never really know what we are. We are a universal creation, and I think somehow we have a role to play. But the role can be, I said one to a young lady that was wanting career, etc., and getting upset. I said, your role might be that one day you are at a crossroads and you can help an old lady cross the road safely. And that might be the only point of all your life. Possible. And she told me, yeah, great, what do I do with this?
And you answered the flow.
Well, I don't know what I answered. But the thing is, we don't know. So we are on a flow, on a journey, and it might prepare us for something, to say something to somebody one day. That might be all of it. Maybe there's more, maybe there's less. And I don't think it's not to worry too much about that. If we can, it's to simply trust the moment and the pleasure of interacting and seeing each other where we are. And
It's a
enjoy it.
preparation of experience in order to get to a certain goal. We don't know what that goal is.
Yes, but that could imply that I'm not just preparing for something. I don't think I'm preparing for something.
No,
I'm
it's
living
like
something.
Your life said, you just said your life was preparation all the way
Yes.
through, although you didn't realize what you were.
But every moment
Yeah.
was meaningful too.
Yes, yes.
Well, Eric, let's use the movie title, The Incredible Lightness of Being. In the moment, you're in exactly the right place. Every moment, always.
And to simply relax with that. And it's nothing in terms of our career, and look at how we define ourselves. If I say, hi, I'm Eric, people say, what do you do? Oh, you're an engineer, you're a doctor, how much do you earn, what car do you drive, where do you live? Okay, look at how you dress. Ooh. So immediately we categorize according to this. But all there is hi. Okay, I'm Eric, I'm Rob, I'm engineer, that's all, and then enjoy the interaction. We don't have to calibrate far more than that, but we immediately want to refer a position. And then that detracts as well from allowing ourselves to interact with everybody at face value, people to people, life to life.
Chicken hierarchy.
Yes, and it's about life. I mean, when you talk to somebody or when we work together and exchange things, you enter into that space and everybody and everything is precious and beautiful. And if you can start, that is where the flow is, when you can see the beauty, when you are in that appreciation of what you have now, then you're in it. You can notice it. And that's maybe then to take stock later. I really felt good then, I like that feeling. That's what I'm inviting, that type of thing. Unless you guys have got other things, I think I'm done.
Thank you. Well, wonderful talk, and would you like to come and have some tea?